Oh, okay. So this must be the same interview, except this one we're getting into AI. So I want to hear Sam Harrison's Sam Harris. I got it right that time. Sam Harris's thought on AI, but this was 6 months ago. So let's see.
Wreak havoc on humanity. 6 years later, where do you stand on it today? Do you think, are you optimistic about our chances of survival?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm optimistic. I am worried about two species of problem here that are related. I mean, there's sort of the near-term problem of just what humans do with increasingly powerful AI and how it amplifies the problem of misinformation and disinformation and just makes it harder and harder to make sense of reality together. And then there's just the longer term concern about what's called alignment with artificial general intelligence, where we build AI that is truly general and by definition superhuman in its competence and power. And then the question is, have we built it in such a way that is aligned in a durable way with our interests? And I mean, there's some people who just don't see this problem. I mean, they're kind of blind to it. When I'm in the presence of someone who doesn't share this intuition, they don't resonate to it, I just don't understand what they're doing or not doing with their minds in that moment.
I think it's a very hard one because it's definitely a problem, or at least a potential problem, but it's a problem that we don't know the extent of the problem because it's still to be determined how much of a problem it is or how much of a potential problem it is. There could be no problem at all. It's like trying to predict the future. You don't know if it's a perceived problem. Like you would expect the way things are going, everything's going, it's going to be a problem, but you can't 100% determine that it's going to be a problem. You can only have your best determination from everything that you see and what may come out of it. It's like the end of humanity. Robots take over the world. Like, what are we looking at? We don't know. Like, and how does that happen? It's definitely a potential problem. Could be an indefinite problem, but we don't know. Or it might even be a solution to a lot of problems. And no, there's always going to be problems with every technology that you have, without a doubt. That's just the way it works. But it's the extent of the problem. Is it world-ending problem? Or is it just all these minor problems, some major problems, but a lot of benefits and solutions? Don't know yet. Don't know.
Well, saying I'm wrong about that, well then it's just the other person's right, and so we just have fundamentally different intuitions about this particular point. And then the point is this:
intuition.
If you're imagining building true artificial general intelligence that is superhuman, and that is what everyone, whatever their intuitions, purports to be imagining here. I mean, there's there are people on both sides of the alignment debate. The people who think alignment's a real problem, and people who think it's a total fiction. But everyone, virtually everyone who's party to this conversation agrees that we will ultimately build artificial general intelligence that will be superhuman in its capacities.
Yep.
And there's very little you have to assume to be confident that we're going to do that. It's really just two assumptions. One is that intelligence is substrate independent, right? It doesn't have to be made of meat. It can be made in silico, right? And we've already proven that with narrow AI. I mean, we obviously have intelligent machines, and your calculator in your phone is better than you are at arithmetic, and that's some very narrow band of intelligence.
But ChatGPT isn't.
Building intelligent machines, on the assumption that there's nothing magical about having a computer made of meat, the only other thing you have to assume is that we will keep doing this. We will keep making progress. And eventually we will be in the presence of something more intelligent than we are.
Yep.
And it's not assuming Moore's law. It's not assuming exponential progress. We just have to keep going, right? And when you look at the reasons why we wouldn't keep going, those are all just terrifying, right? Because intelligence is so valuable, and we're so incentivized to have more of it, and every increment of it is valuable. It's not like it only gets valuable when you get, when you double it or 10x it. No. If you just get 3% more, right? That pays for itself.
And that's the problem with the path that we're on, not just for the free market, with the free market where you want to have that increase in intelligence or that advancements to be ahead of the game in your expert field or whatever marketplace or whatever market you're in, but it's also countries. It can't be stopped because you've got countries that want the advancements of this AI so that it can bring them forward with intelligence and knowledge and everything else that comes with it. So there's no the snowball started rolling and it's getting bigger and bigger, and there's no way to stop it, because even if you put sanctions or you put certain restrictions on things, they only apply to a country or countries, where other countries that sit outside that realm will just keep going and progressing and doing what they want. And now it's just about getting ahead of the game and who's first at reaching certain benchmarks. And obviously it's America at the moment because they're doing everything with all their AI, with Google, Gemini, ChatGPT, all that sort of stuff. So you don't want to put sanctions on that, slow it down, and then they wouldn't want China to get ahead of the game. So either way, it's progressing forward, whether we like it or not.
So we're going to keep doing this. Our failure to do it suggests that something terrible has happened in the meantime, right? We've had a world war. We've had a global pandemic far worse than COVID. We got hit by an asteroid. Something happened that prevented us as a species from continuing to make progress in building intelligent machines, right? So absent that, we're going to keep going. We will eventually be in the presence of something smarter than we are. And this is where intuitions divide.
Yeah.
My intuition, and it's shared by many people, I'm sure, and I know at least one who you've spoken to. My intuition is that there is something inherently dangerous for the dumber party in that relationship. There's something inherently dangerous for the dumber species to be in the presence of the smarter species. And we have seen this, based on our entanglement with all other species, dumber than we are, right? Or certainly less competent than we are. And by reasoning by analogy, it would be true of something smarter than we are.
But there's definitely a flaw to that analogy, because you're going off history from human behavior, purely human behavior. So that's what I'm thinking that you're talking about. The dumber people are always going to be taken advantage of by the more intelligent people. Yeah, of course, but this is a new realm of system, and I think if it's influenced enough by humans, then you're probably going to see more of a disaster state than not. I don't know. It's all a guessing game. It's all a guessing game.
People imagine that because we have built these machines, that is no longer true, right? But, and here's where my intuition goes from there. That imagination is born of not taking intelligence seriously, right? Because what intelligence is a you know a mismatch in intelligence in particular is a fundamental lack of insight into what the smarter party is doing and why it's doing it and what it will do next on the part of the dumber party, right? So, I mean, you just can imagine that, by analogy, just imagine that dogs had invented us as their super intelligent AIs, right? For the purpose of making their lives better, just securing resources for them, securing comfort for them, getting them medical attention. It's been working out pretty well for the dogs for about 10,000 years, right? I mean, there's some exceptions. We've got mistreat certain dogs, but generally speaking, for most dogs, most of the time, humans have been a great invention, right? Now, it's true that the mismatch in our intelligence dictates a fundamental blindness with respect to what we've become in the meantime, right? So, like, we have all these instrumental goals and things we care about that they cannot possibly conceive, right? They know that when we go get the leash and say it's time for a walk, they understand that particular part of the language game. But everything else we do when we're talking to each other and when we're on our computers or on our phones, they don't.
Okay, this makes a bit more sense of what he's talking about. I thought he was initially talking about a mismatch in intelligence when it comes to humans, but he means species, which I think that's what he said. But I wasn't really paying attention. Mismatch in intelligence between me and him. Which it makes sense, but still, yeah. I guess once their AI's intelligence surpasses us, excuse me. Once AI's intelligence surpasses us, it just means that we are not on the same level and cannot comprehend as well as they do as to what their goals are, what they're doing, what they're trying to achieve, and their motivations and what their outcomes will be. So I guess in that perspective, that's where it's a bit more scary, because it's like you're just building this system, and once it gets to a certain point, it's in control. Let it run with what it wants to do, because you've got no idea what its plans and motivations and goals and what it wants to achieve. You have no idea what that is. No idea. You just got to hope they're not going to destroy you and it's going to benefit you.
I don't have the dimmest idea of what we're up to. And if something happened, we love, the truth is we love our dogs. We make just irrational sacrifices for our dogs. We prioritize their health over all kinds of things that is just amazing to consider. And yet, if we learned, if there was a new, global pandemic kicking off and some xenovirus was jumping from dogs to humans, and it was just kind of super Ebola, right? It was 90% lethal. And this was just a forced choice between them. What do you value more, the lives of your dogs or the lives of your kids, right? Mm-hmm. If that's a situation we were in, it's totally conceivable. I mean, it's not not by no means impossible. We would just kill all the dogs, right? And they would never know why, right? We would just.
Good analogy.
It's because we have this layer of mind and culture and just the noosphere, right? There's just this realm of mind that requires a requisite level of intelligence to even be party to even know exists.
If I had to put you in a yes or no situation and ask your intuition the question now, that if your objective was to, which I'm sure it is to encourage the betterment of humanity and to increase our odds of happiness and well-being 100 years from now, and there was a button placed in front of you, and it would either end the development of artificial intelligence as we've seen it over the last decade, so we'd never proceed with developing intelligent machines.
That's a good question.
Or not. So you could press a button and stop it right now.
I don't think you'd stop it.
Stop it permanently, such that we never then do that thing. We just never figure out how to build intelligent machines.
Pause it indefinitely.
He would say no.
Well, I would definitely pause it to a
Indefinitely.
point where we could get our heads
Indefinitely.
around the alignment problem. Yes.
Permanently.
Permanently.
If the button was a permanent pause that you couldn't undo.
No.
Well, the question is, how deep does that go? So, like, we have everything we have now, but it
Yes.
just never gets better. Then
Yeah, we never make
No.
progress from here.
Right.
And your objective is to make
That's a no.
humanity happy and prosperous.
Oh,
It's hard because when you begin,
That's the
imagining
objective.
all of the good
It'll
stuff
be yes.
that we could get with aligned superhuman AI. Well, then, it's just, cornucopia upon cornucopia. It's just everything is.
I think that's a tough question. That's what he's struggling with, is the fact that we want these systems and progressions of AI, but we don't want them as fast as we're getting them right now. It's almost like you let go of something and it's just like taken off, and its trajectory is just increasing and increasing, and there's no way you can slow it down. But we're not at the point where we have enough intelligence to understand the trajectory of where it's going to end up. So give it 100, maybe 200 years, then we might be a bit more intelligent and understand what this could be or do for us and how to control it. But we're definitely not at that point now. So, but to just get rid of it and for it to never ever come back again it just means that the human race is just stagnant and it's not going to progress as fast as it would with AI. Crazy.
Everything is potentially within reach. Yeah, I mean, I take the existential risk scenario seriously enough that I would pause it. I would say. I mean, I think we will eventually get to it. If curing cancer is a biomedical engineering problem that admits of a solution, and I think there's every reason to believe it ultimately would be, we will eventually get there based on our own, muddling along with our, current level of
Muddling
information. I'm, reasonably confident of that. Because I mean, our intelligence shows every sign of being general. It's just it's not as fast as we would want it to be. It's not what the thing that AI is going to give us is going to give us speed that is I mean, there's speed and then there's the access, there's memory, right? It's like we can't integrate. We don't have the ability. No person or team of people can integrate all of the data we already have.
And the good example was the New York Times response to Candace, whatever her name is, that we sent on the Joe Rogan thing. It's just like they don't even have the capacity to understand the data that they have within their whole organization, or even the data that captures all their articles, and to know that they have previously stated or had articles that points towards corruption in the Ukraine. And that's just a good example of that. Something like an AI system that was in control of that organization would instantaneously be able to have that data and information brought to the service. And instead of asking the question of her and her saying, refer to your articles, it would know straight away. It's like, oh, yes, yeah, okay. So that's a good example.
Right. So that the real promise here is that these systems will be able to find patterns that we wouldn't even know how to look for, and then do something on the basis of those patterns. I think an intelligent search within the data space, by apes like ourselves, will eventually do most of the great things we want done. And there isn't there isn't. I mean, the problems we need to solve so as to safeguard the career of our species and to make civilization durable and sane and to remove this sword of Damocles that is over our heads at every moment, that, you know, at any moment we could just decide to have a nuclear war that ruins everything, or create an engineered pandemic that ruins everything. We don't need superhuman intelligence to solve all those problems, and we need an appropriate emotional response to the untenability of the status quo, and we need a political dialogue that eventually transcends our tribalism.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge
Anyway, interesting